Hello, and welcome to Rugby Through the Leagues podcast. We want to keep a shining a light on rugby that is not shown in the mainstream media. I am Carl, and thanks for joining us on the next instalment of Rugby Through the Leagues podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the pod. Keep in touch with us on our social as well, just so that we can make sure what we're doing is actually impacting the game. And you guys are enjoying it. There's no point of us carrying on doing the same shit that people don't want to listen to. So keep in touch. Let's keep growing it and making sure we share the love. As I keep mentioning, to those that are obviously new to the pod at the minute, the intros and outros are a little bit loose. I'm travelling around a little bit, seeing family, etc., etc. So being able to record it as and when I can. For those that have obviously been with us, thank you for keeping listening to that on repeat. So we've managed to get the new director of rugby, Tom Blackburn, on from Navy Rugby. Tom, good lad, really, really nice bloke to actually share his time with as well. He's got a wealth of knowledge within the game, wealth of knowledge down through Navy Rugby as well. Wants to really make a difference, wants to close that gap as well with the Army. The men's are pretty much there. He obviously wants to return some of the pumpings that he had at Twickenham back in the day. So there's a real excitement there. Really good youth under 23 system coming through as well, which is really promising for Navy Rugby. And also how he's going to be able to put the plan in place to close the gap on the women's game as well, because it's quite sizable, even in Tom's words. It's a sizable gap at the minute, but I can't wait to see the plan that he puts together for that, because top bloke, great rugby guy, and a great interview. So let's just get on with it. Well, this week we've managed to get Tom Blackburn on, who is now the director of rugby for the Royal Navy. So I managed to see that on I think it was Instagram, or somebody messaged it, and I tapped a couple of people up. Obviously, Polly was on it was on the first pod. I was like, Polly, can you work your magic? And we've now got Tom on. Tom, thank you so much for your time, mate. I know you're a busy man and obviously got a new role to get your teeth stuck into, but I really appreciate your time. Can you go through with everyone your rugby journey, what you've been, where you are, and obviously obviously you're in the mob as well, so I'm sure we can find some decent stories to pour out like Polly did.
Yeah, no. Well, thanks for having me on, Carl. I really, really appreciate it. So I guess rugby for me came a bit later than some of them. I wasn't from a rugby family.
Yeah.
My dad was into rowing, and didn't really have a rugby connection. I grew up in a village in Surrey, and footy was the sport of choice for everyone. Yeah. So I tried footy for a long time and failed.
I think every rugby player's been there, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the coach just walked up to a dad and said, "He's crap. You've got to get. He's not the right sport for him." So so he took me down to Haslemere Rugby Club, he took me up the clubhouse and sort of said, "Oh, this is Tom. He's 10. I think it was under 10, so I must have been 9 at the time." Yeah. And they said, "Oh yeah, just head over there. This is the coach, and they'll get him welcomed in." And that was it. I think one of the joys of rugby is just how welcoming the club it can be. Yeah. You've got the clubhouse, you've got a focal point, and that was it. And welcome with open arms. Found my niche, made some mates, at a young age. And that was it, really. I had the bug. Yeah. So, everything I'd missed from footy, I found in rugby. So that was kind of it. And then stayed in the area, grew out of Haslemere a bit, ended up going up to Guildford. Okay. Again, I can't. Yeah, it's a little way up the road.
Yeah, well, it's not a bad standard either. Guildford for those the Northerners that are listening. Guildford's not a bad sort of rugby spot to be part of. Haslemere's a bit of a leafy suburb in it, really. It's a little village, lovely part of the world, but obviously most people sort of peel up towards Guildford if they want to play to a level. Was that because you wanted to play a higher standard, or just you?
Yeah, just I think the sort of the age group I was with at Haslemere was sort of running out. Players were getting a bit thin on the ground, and I was on that Colts fringe,
Yeah.
and I ended up getting pushed to play a couple of senior rugby games when I was a bit early. I remember getting bent up in a scrum, getting myself in a rather uncomfortable position of thinking I'm not ready for this, not ready for big boy rugby yet. So yeah, I ended up going into the Colts at Guildford, and again, really good environment, and that kind of helped spur me on and get me ready for senior rugby, which was good. And then where was it? And then I kind of signed up to the Navy and the mob when I was pretty young. I must have been, what was it, 15? So I was sponsored to go through sixth form college. Yeah. So it was a pretty cool experience. Basically, private school for poor kids. Yeah. With the mob picking up most of the bill. So I went to a place called Welbeck College, which was, pretty typical private school, like Harry Potter style, amazing place. The rugby pitch was like the old estate lawns in front of the house. Amazing backdrop. You couldn't have a better place to play a game of rugby. I guess school rugby takes you up a notch. It was boarding school, so you were there all the time, just fully immersed in it, training, 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah. Daily Mail Cup was a good competition.
Nice.
So and that took it on, and then eventually, going into the Navy, I got picked up there and started in the Navy squad. We got our under 20. It was under 21s at the time, but I think they increased the age a bit and took people to under 23s, which is kind of where it's stuck for the last few years. Straight into that, and Navy rugby's been pretty good.
So how did that happen? Do they sort of queue up as you're coming through the gates at Raleigh, or do you sort of put your hand up and somebody say, "Oh, I'll play rugby," and there's trials, or is it just whoever's not pissed from the night before gets sort of roped in?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of all sorts. I suppose it is a bit of all sorts. There's a few people who are looking out. So I was lucky enough. One of the coaches at school had a connection in the Navy rugby team, and he sort of said, sort of nudged me in the right direction. But now, in terms of Navy rugby, we have people looking out for players. Yeah. Looking at CVs, past experience when they go through the recruitment centres and go through the gates at Raleigh and Dartmouth. Looking out for people who've got a bit of calibre, in the background. Otherwise, people just stick their hand up and go, "Oh, by the way, I used to play."
Yeah, I used to play here or there,
yeah, county or whatever, and then they generally get pushed towards a team and get a look. Nice. And we'll see. Some of those leads turn out to be very good. Some of them turn out to be very bad.
Well, one of them's not turned out too bad. He just won the Prem, and so he didn't do too bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The odd diamond. Yeah. So that's kind of it.
Navy rugby. Do you still sort of dabble outside? Obviously, you were at Gosport for a little bit back in the day.
Yeah, so during the Navy rugby stuff, it was always in the under 23s years. It was it's always been pre-Christmas, so that September to December window, and then you had the rest of the year, and that was weekends, and then the full senior stuff was always after Christmas, but it was generally play on a Wednesday, so until you get to the sort of inter services, so it was good to have a club to continue to develop and. Yeah, I was based at Salton, so I was playing at Gosport and Fareham. Or when I was down at Culdrose, I played a bit for Red Roof.
Oh, nice.
And then eventually I moved across to up on Southwark Hill and moved across to Havant, the arch enemies at the time of Gosport.
Still are, mate, but yeah, obviously they've accelerated away. So I had Will Knight and Lewis Osborne on last night. I was interviewing them, so obviously these are a few. I'm a few pods ahead at the minute because I've got a couple of months off, so I'm just trying to get everything coordinated. So I had them on last night and I had a really good chat with them. Really, really top blokes. Obviously done a big bit, and I have to still say I fucking hate it. Obviously being a Gosport boy that they're doing so well, but where credit's due, what they've done is different gravy at the minute, and they've really pushed the club forward. So fair play to them.
Yeah, and they've done it right as well. I mean,
they have.
Everyone always looks at Havant and goes, "They must be throwing some cash around," or the ringers or all of that. And then you look at it and you go, "Well, it's just not true."
No,
it's just not. A good bunch of lads who have stuck together for a long time. They've been consistent, and ultimately it's taking its time, but they're there now. And
I think they've had a blinder as well. As I was talking to Will and Lewis about it last night on Oz, he was that pitch turned their fortune as well, being able to not have to cancel games and cancel training because of the rivers of Havant, they used to call the pitches. They said so.
Yeah, it was.
It's fair play to them. So obviously you went over to Havant. Where are you? Have you given up now? Is that sort of your journey ended, or are you still dotting around out in Cornwall and that?
Yeah, no, my civilian sort of rugby career is finished. When I got my next job down in Cornwall, I coincided with my second child as well.
Okay.
And I decided at 35, I didn't need. I needed some time back. I needed the Saturdays to give back to my family and exploring Cornwall. So yeah, I thought, you know what, that's a good place to bow out.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a really good time at Havant, and yeah, rather than go fighting for a new club and trying to nudge your way into a team at 35, I thought that'll do, and just play for the Navy Vets now in the over 35s, and
nice.
Yeah, that's gone all right as well. So
lovely. So a fairly decent journey there, mate. So you must have. Who was probably the best player you ever got to play with then? I know there's probably a couple you've come across, but who's the best? Who's the best?
I mean, on paper, Sam Matavesi, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't get much better than that. Starting international hooker, beat England at Twickenham, won the Premiership final. I mean, don't get better than that. But I always remember, I guess because I was quite young and junior in the squad when we were there, but you had players like Greg Barden, who was playing England Sevens at the time.
Yeah.
Josh Nui, he was at Worcester, was a winger. Some of those guys they just stood out. They were different gravy.
Yeah. So what is Sam like? Because I've heard I know a few people that sort of know of him and stuff, and like apparently he's as mad as a box of chocolate frogs, and he's a loose cannon at best. Is probably the term most people say.
Yeah. He's good fun.
Yeah,
I've heard. I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time with him, unlike some of the guys who have been in camp with him for a bit.
Yeah.
Sam and I have crossed paths. Played with each other a few times.
Yeah.
Genuinely just down to earth, really nice bloke.
Yeah.
Good fun. Doesn't take things too seriously apart from rugby. When he's on, he's on.
Yeah.
But yeah, really grounded bloke. Just nice to have around, especially with the Navy guys.
Didn't he score a try for the Navy the other week where he chipped and chased it as well, didn't he, or something?
Yeah, outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. It was against the Air Force, down in Plymouth at Brickfields, and he just done this broke through the line, a little chip over their winger, and then picked it up on the other end and scored. And I think everyone else was just thinking, what is this guy?
What a man.
Yeah.
So the probably players you've come across as well that should have gone on to make it. Is there, and if there is, who are they? And is there a reason why they didn't?
Yeah, the what ifs, right? What if? There's probably a lot of people who would say, I would have made it if.
Yeah.
I've met a few of them down the pub.
And we all.
Yeah, I think Ben Priddy for me, he's a player I've always thought was brilliant. When I played with him, in that under 21s, under 23s years, he was different level. He was played senior rugby, like senior Navy rugby, and starting early.
Yeah.
He's played a decent standard, don't get me wrong. He was playing Redruth in National 2. He's top try scorer, I think, in National 2 at the moment with Campbell, and at 35 years old.
Yeah, it's
or
not bad.
36 years old, whatever he is. So he's just played a brilliant standard, but he never, I don't think, well, maybe I'll have to speak to him, but I don't think he ever broke into, Premiership at all.
Was that because he was in the mob and the setup was slightly different before? Obviously, being 35, it wasn't as well drilled as obviously what you've sort of inherited now. Do you think that was something to accommodate? Like he's got his career. It's not like it's going to be his full time. Obviously, hopefully you can tap him up and we can get him on and find out from the horse's mouth. It's I don't think it's as well set up as it is now for players to be able to sort of cross the divide, is it really?
No, I don't think so. And I think he was at Redruth for a long time, so I think he had quite a lot of club loyalty.
Yeah.
And there's not that much rugby down in Cornwall. I don't, we think it's a rich place in terms of a picking ground. The Cornish, the Cornish county team have always been very strong.
Yeah.
But actually, all you've got is Pirates at one end, down in Penzance, and you've got Exeter the other.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really much in between.
No.
So there's a few clubs that suck the players, and then Pirates suck from them, and then Exeter suck from Pirates. So it's kind of, there's not that much choice. So I think probably if he was located differently geographically with his family and where he's based, maybe it'd been a different story. You look in the London area, so many clubs in that South London region at all levels, from Nat 1, Champ, and then all the way up to Premiership.
Yeah. Because you've got, obviously, Ed Pascoe's down there as well.
Yeah. He's down in. He's been at Redruth for a long time.
Yeah, he's he's a few people have said he's probably up there with top drawer as well, and it's
I don't know if he's in that category where you reach your peak. Is he tall enough to be a second row? Is he big enough to be a flanker? Fast enough? I guess everyone finds the limit, and the club will look for freaks.
Yeah.
In each, especially to get in the top flight, there's some there's some freaks in there.
Yeah.
And if you're not quite in that category, then maybe you found your level.
Yeah, well, I was speaking I had Ollie Curry on as well, and Ollie Curry played for London Irish right at the start of his career, and he said he went to a silver trials when he was 13, and they literally they didn't put a ball in his hand. All they did was measure him and weigh him. That was the trial, and they measured him. He was 13, and he'd already hit 6 foot. And they measured it and said, "You're not going to grow anymore." And then that was it. Kind of just fell out of it, and then had to play himself back in. Ended up being 6'7", 6'8". So they clearly got the measurement stick wrong. But you just think, just some crazy setup. Is the Navy Rugby similar to that? Is it a numbers game? Is it just performance based, or whoever's available because the rest are away on ships, or does it have to navigate around that a lot?
Nah, there's no, we're not quite into the realms like rowing or any of that, measuring people and going, oh, he's not heavy enough. It's performance based, really. You can see talent. We encourage a lot of the players to play civilian rugby. That's where you're going to develop. You're playing your week in, week out rugby at the highest standard you can. That's only going to benefit us when we get them.
Yeah.
No, none of that really. All performance based. See how people play them, and to be honest, we go through the squads. Now with the men's team, they get together in sort of January, back into January, and they stay together till the Army Navy in first weekend of May.
Oh, okay.
So they're in a training camp for that long.
Are they sort of ring fenced? They don't get called away. Are they sort of, that's your bubble? Is there, or unless something shit really hit the fan?
Yeah, so we try and get them released from their jobs into that training camp. So that kind of changed. Back in the days I was involved, I was on the end of a lot of jolly good pumpings from the army at Twickenham, and it was a previous director of rugby really just changed the way we're doing it. Said, look, the Navy's a third the size of the army. Yeah, we're going to have to do something differently, and they brought in this sort of professional training camp, a bit like they used to do with field gun or boxing, and it changed, And that year, first year they did it, 2010, won it, and that was it. So, and it's been going on since then in various forms.
What took them so long? Is it just typical, just a case of what still works is until somebody actually probably sat down, or was there a new DOR that come in and said we've got to really do something different, or was there a bit of a change in the guard there?
Yeah, well, as far as I understand it, it was a new DOR who came in. He had a bit of he'd been involved in high level rugby. A guy called Garrett Ashton Jones. Right. He'd been involved in high level rugby as an analyst with Quins.
Oh, okay.
So he had that sort of high. Having seen high level sport or high level rugby, coming back into it with that experience and saying, right, hang on, this is looking at what we need to do. That's how I understand it. There's probably more to it than that. Yeah. But I remember that being the first year that it all changed. The emphasis on strength and nutrition changed. The psychology sessions, it all just got a lot more serious, a lot more professional. And we were in this professional camp, and I guess the proof was in the pudding, because that year changed the result. So something worked.
No, it's brilliant. So obviously, how's that now going to go to the next level? Is there, are you quite limited on how you can progress the systems, obviously, or is it a case of just little bit, step by step to sort of start finally taking back those pumpings that the army used to give you back in the day and try and return the favour, or is it a case of this is where it is and you've just got to tip small steps?
Yeah, I think. Well, so I'm director across all the representative teams. So the men, the women, sevens, 23s, everything. So under me, I've got some assistants in each team. I think, what the men have done for the last few years is working. Whatever the template, the model they've come up with is working for them. I think, last year they won it. This year,
pipped right out.
Nail-bitingly close.
What a game to watch that was, from the outside in.
Unreal. Proper heartbreak. And the year before that, I thought, to be honest, they should have won it.
Yeah.
So actually, whatever they're doing is working, and I think protecting, that's the key thing. The remit isn't is to be competitive.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we need to be. So there's definitely some incremental gains. We do a review of the season and we look at what went wrong and why, and you try and change those little things. Where are the little areas you can get gains? Obviously, money's not infinite. People's time isn't infinite. There's lots of constraints to work around. But we're certainly going after those little marginal bits that we can do differently. To get a slightly improved performance. Some of it comes from players, just finding players at the right level, getting them out. Like I said, playing that good rugby week in, week out.
Yeah.
Obviously, the women's game is slightly different. The army are just getting stronger and stronger.
Have you got a sort of lift and shift the model that worked from the men's to the women's? I know there was sort of, it has been done, but when I was watching the build up to the women's game at the Army Navy, one of the women's players literally got called away on the Thursday before the game, and she was literally match ready in the zone, got the call, and she's gone, and somebody's had to dot in. Obviously, that wouldn't happen in the men's game unless shit hit the fan. Is that the next sort of phase for you? Obviously, being DOR, is to try and secure the lift and shift model.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be the same model.
Right.
I think they're different teams with different wants and needs.
Okay.
There's obviously some lessons we can take from the men's system and drag it across. I think there's a lot of issues that have gone where the women's team have been neglected, probably because they're not. They haven't always been at Twickenham, so they haven't been in that limelight and the focal point. I think now they are, and they are. We need to invest. We need to make it better. There's a lot of little things you can do. Ultimately, it comes down to what players you've got available.
Yeah.
Have you got the talent and the depth? Our women struggled a lot with injury this year. You take a few crucial injuries and a few players. If you haven't got that strength and depth, like any civvy rugby club finds out over a long season, you've got to have those players who can come in at the right standard.
Yeah.
So we definitely learnt that. We need a bigger player pool to draw from. There's not that many women in the Navy, and how many of those play rugby? There's a maths issue.
Yeah.
We've got to do a bit there. There's a bit about getting the right setup in terms of coaching and focus, what we're actually looking at, whether it's strength and conditioning, nutrition, is it core skills, is it specialist skills? There's a lot of different factors in the game.
Yeah.
A lot of the girls are playing. Some of them haven't been playing rugby for that long either. They're quite new to the sport, so they're on a big old learning curve.
Yeah.
They're
playing at Twickers.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You start playing rugby a couple of years ago, and next thing you know, you're playing at Twickenham in front of a fairly big crowd.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Against a very decent outfit. So there's quite a lot of work to do there. We've got to close that gap with the army. That's and the RAF, to be fair.
Yeah. So how does the coaches come about? Are they serving personnel that have sort of had previous experience, or is there scope for outside to come in, or how does that sort of work and progress?
Yeah, so primarily it's all service people.
Right.
Whether they have developed as a coach through the community game, coaching a ship side or a fleet command team, fleet air arm, and then work their way up.
Yeah.
Or they're players, ex-players who
Right.
have moved into coaching after playing. So, like if I look at our current crop in our, most of them are ex-players who have gone into coaching. We try and once they finish playing, develop them as coaches a bit with one of the teams.
Yeah.
Before they take the top job.
Nice. So it's
yeah,
it's kind of recycles within, so you don't have to go outside either, which is quite works.
We do bring in external coaches. So
Right.
I think with that system, we have to find people that. Certainly for me, a focus for next year is identifying those niche areas of the game where we haven't got coaches at the right level.
Right.
And bring in external coaches, especially, look at a hooker or, a number 9 box kicking.
Yeah.
Taking high balls. There's some real niche areas of the game where we probably haven't got that experience in the coaches. So we'll probably bring in external coaches who are specialists in those areas. Scrummaging, whatever. I don't know. We need to look at it and bring in support where you need it. The sort of full-time core coaching team, forwards, backs, head coach, are going to be service people. Does
that come out of a budget? Do you get an allocated budget to make use of to go after the army in that sense, and then that can be used externally if required, or is it a case of you just ring them up and beg them and plead them to come in for nothing? Or just give them some beer or something.
We just go through the budget setting actually today. That was at a meeting today.
Okay.
There's a budget to work within. Navy Rugby, it's got sponsorship income. It's got the ticket sales from Army Navy. So we've got a rugby budget to work with, and how we use that is up to us really.
Okay.
I bid for where we want to focus that funding, different areas.
Yeah.
External coaching support is definitely one that I'm looking at for next year. We've been pretty lucky having, you have someone like Sam Matvesi involved.
Yeah.
He's not only is he a great player, he's also really good at coaching the guys.
Yeah.
Just bringing in those little tidbits and helping the guys understand stuff. Having him around is a big boost. I think across all the teams, to be honest, the 23s, the women's team, sevens teams, there's going to be areas where we need support, and I've got a bit of money put aside for that. Nice.
So obviously the under 23s do the sort of the try services as well, don't they? They used to play down. Well, they played down at Burnaby Road, so I used to pop over. And how's the future of the Navy game looking? Is the development still coming through, looking good?
Really strong.
Yeah.
I think if I look back at it since I started getting involved, where the seniors felt like they were a bit cliquey.
Yeah.
There wasn't too much draw through, whereas now there's a really big draw through.
Oh, good.
Yeah, year on year, there's a number of under 23s get pulled into the seniors.
Yeah.
The senior coaches are always looking down at 23s, looking at the talents available, nurturing it. Even if they bring them into camp for a little bit of time, develop them.
Yeah.
Get them into some good clubs, civilian clubs, to see them to progress. So the future's bright. I think last 2 years ago, they won the inter-services, and then this year they narrowly lost. But there's some amazing players coming through.
Yeah, I used to go over and watch when Ben Roberts and like Rory and that were in the team, and they'd done. Yeah, it was always a great night out. It's just so fucking cold at Burnaby Road, isn't it? It's just who puts it on in like the middle of winter and stuff like that.
That stand needs replacement. Stand the clubhouse, they need a new one there because it's not great.
This
pitch is lovely, but
pitch looks phenomenal. Yeah. Because obviously US Pompey used to play out there as well. Are they still sort of battering around? Are they back now because they sort of disappeared? And then are they sort of another sort of support?
Yeah, they're there. So they sit under Navy Rugby, so they're one of our sort of affiliated clubs.
Oh,
So
okay.
we've got US Portsmouth in the Pompey area, and then
Yeah.
we've got Devonport Services
Mm-hmm.
who have just been promoting that too.
Yeah, see that. Yeah.
So yeah, they're sort of our affiliate clubs to Navy support. They use Navy facilities.
Do you use
So
like
yeah,
Plymouth Albion much at all, or anything like that, or is it not an official? But some of the lads go there.
yeah, it's not an official, but we've got strong links with that club. Plymouth Albion are a great club. We've got a number of players playing regularly there.
Yeah.
We've used, Britfields has been used for quite a few fixtures that we hire the venue against the French Navy, Commonwealth Cup. We played down there. The RAF we played them this year at Britfield. So yeah, it's a good venue and a decent club.
So obviously, when you were in the mob and sort of knocking around, what was the most exotic place you got to pull your boots on and play for the Navy?
Probably the US.
Okay.
Yeah. So not that exotic, unfortunately.
Polly said that. I think he said he was. He was. He done the sort of the US tour and stuff as well. So was
yeah.
When was that? What year was that then, Tom?
So that would have been a Sure Ships team. When would that been? 2012-ish. And then with the Navy Rugby team, I've been to New Zealand, been to Australia.
Oh wow.
Yeah, been around a bit on a few tours. So
obviously 2012 was that's 12 years ago now. Was that was sort of on the precipice of the start of American rugby? Was that quite obvious back then, or was there? Did they look like they knew what they were doing when you were out there, or?
No. So we played the US Marine Corps. Like great bunch.
Yeah.
Like threw the heart at it. You could just tell, like rugby hadn't been in their system for very long.
Right.
Some amazing athletes, but just not used to the nitty gritty of rugby, especially when it came to scrummaging, all the dirty tricks, the dark arts. They just had not sunk in over there yet. But I think if you look now, the US system investing in sevens because it's an Olympic sport.
Yeah.
That has gone mental.
Yeah.
The US sevens team's pretty good. They've got a real feed into them. And I think it's growing as a sport now. It's really starting to take off.
Yeah, obviously the MLR's got some players that have gone there for their payday as well, and looks really impressive. They're very good at marketing the Yanks, and I think the rest of rugby could probably sort of peer through the fence and say, "Hold on, how are you doing it so well there?" Because there's I obviously keep track of pretty much as much rugby as possible for the pod. There's an app for the whole of the American MLR league, so you can get every game on your phone and all the updates, everything like that, all free. So there's no issue. It's called the Rugby Network, and you literally get all the details, all the games, watch everything on there. And we're struggling to televise games over here and stuff, and you just think they've done it. They've done it again. Obviously, they've got the NFL. That they've nailed that. But how do you think? What's your opinion of the way rugby's run over here compared to other places around the world that you've sort of peered through the fence at?
Well, so I like the Premiership, right?
Yep.
I look at that and I go, what a great league. It's got loads of homegrown talent there. Quite a lot of English people, and that's part of the way they run the club, right? All the politics around
promotion, relegation,
France, big money, promotion, relegation. But the Premiership's good. I really like the idea of promotion, relegation. I'd love to see, some of the barriers between the Champ and the Premiership removed.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the details. I've read the sort of some of the statements coming out of the Champ at the moment about why there's such an issue as they see it. I'm sure it's different from the Premiership Rugby League and all the rest of it. But
yeah, there's a few moving parts to it. So obviously the RFU have offered the Championship £4 million to share between the 12 clubs. There's £35 million then to be shared between the 10 Premiership clubs to offset the losses each year by each Premiership club. There's also 4 of those Prem clubs that are in discussions with the PIF, which is obviously the Saudi Public Investment Fund. Funnily enough, 2 of them are the bottom 2 teams that could have technically been relegated this season. So, reading between the lines, there may be some conversations there that they're trying to protect investments rather than protecting the game and allowing it to grow. I think the TNT stuff's really interesting to understand how they're going to be able to make as many games possible for people to view, because every game's going to be on telly for the TNT next season. So that, I think that's a good way of putting it out there, but it's just how they're going to do it. Because I was speaking to Joe Batley the other day as well, and Joe's been on is on the pod, and he said they're still not quite told them, but they said there might be some games on Thursday nights to try and compensate to allow not too many games on a Saturday afternoon, because obviously most rugby fans, as we know, are playing on a Saturday afternoon. So the demographics already disappeared. So they've got to do something to get as many people on the telly and also in the stands at the same time. So it'd be interesting. I think the product, I agree. I really do agree. I think the product's brilliant. I just don't think we advertise it well enough to the outside world to bring more people to the game.
Yeah, I think it's all that media rights, right, and the money in the game. I mean, ultimately, it all comes down to who's willing to pay to go and watch a game of rugby, right?
Yeah.
Bums on seats counts. I mean, that's kind of what drives it.
Agreed.
Every viewing figures. I don't know why it's so much more popular in France than it is in the UK.
I think because it's regionalised. There's literally one team to whereas the Prem, you've got four clubs sort of around the London piece, or like in and around, and then you've got obviously I think it's too widely spread, so you can't just sort of like from Portsmouth, Gosport Way. Closest we've got is Quins. Obviously, Irish was the other option. They've obviously not with us any longer, so Quins is the closest option. But even to get the Quins, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours on a train to Twickenham, and so it's still not cheap. Like especially in the current climate, you're not going to get as many bums on seats in that sense. Like the Prem final was 90, I think it was 90 quid for an entry level ticket, and they sold it out. Like fair play, like they're brilliant, but there's only going to be a certain clientele that go to that. Whereas,
well, that's because Bath, none of them are able to get into Bath's ground all year, so it's the only game they can actually go and get to watch. Because they've only got about 10 seats and they're all outside in the rain.
I've been to Bath on a Friday night and literally all it did was rain. Thank God I was on a rugby tour, so I was just pissed anyway. So that was the only option. But it's and
it was nice to see 2 of those like proper rugby clubs in the final this year.
Well, there's 2 sort of Hollywood stories there that have kind of been missed. Football got that pretty much nailed on All or Nothing and stuff like that on Amazon and Netflix. But somebody could have said, right, Sodic, we're going to go into Bath. We're going to go and watch. They literally should have been relegated this year. Let's go and see. And then, like literally, the second season, they're in the Prem final. Like that would have got a few people interested, like outside of the bubble. Newcastle finished rock bottom with 5 points this season. Netflix, turn up with a camera, just get something, just try and raise some sort of dirt or something. Steve Diamond going in there with a hand grenade trying to re-sign sign Hoggy up. All of those sort of talk that people don't see in a rugby game because we're very, this is rugby, this is it. We can't really show the outside well what we're all about. But try and create an appetite for it for the just the general viewer. Because if somebody just chucks that on Netflix because they're bored or they've got some bird round, you never like they could just chuck it on and we might then gain another follower. But without trying, how's it going to change? And I just don't think that's the appetite.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the All or Nothing team obviously did the All Blacks.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool to watch. Was it Mud, Sweat and Tears? Was that one doing the Premiership?
Yeah, but I thought it was shit, to be honest. It was
kind of bounced around lots of different teams.
Very porridge. It was very porridge, wasn't it? It was very bland. It's very much, we can't talk too much. We can't do. But I thought the Six Nations one was really good on Netflix. I thought that was a good insight.
Yeah, I like that. Did you see the South Africa one? I haven't seen it because it's
I haven't got round
to
it, but I've heard it's phenomenal. But no, I haven't got round to it yet. But that's the sort of stuff, because you see the clips of Rassie Rasmus just absolutely tearing into you would never die for the country, you'd never do this, it's all talk. That's rugby. Like, that's the sort of shit that we know and love.
Yeah, it's
But
the
other
bit that
people,
gets me where they're talking about, the concept of taking the scrum off of mark in
yeah,
their 22, and I just love that, and that, to get that insight behind the scenes
yeah.
to see how it came about. I think some of the things that, or maybe it's just as a rugby player, you're like, okay, I see how this madness
But then some
started.
people that might not understand the game will see that and think, hold on, what are they talking about? Oh, actually, I'm going to pop down the local rugby club, or I'm going to watch a game. I'm going to do a few things like this. But if that isn't available, it's like how many people have watched like an NFL superstar or a basketball superstar film on like Coach Carter or something like that, and then ended up watching a basketball game, or when they go to America, they go
Yeah,
and buy tickets to go and see it. We don't have that accessibility for kids or anything like that within the rugby world outside in. Like I think they've done a really good one on the referees as well recently as well. So that's supposed to be really good as well. And I think that's a really good insight to see how they've had to adapt to a lot of the rule changes as well. Because I think that affects a lot of people's interest is just the constant rule change, and then there's a lot of people that are just told it's so dangerous, you're going to get concussions, you're going to die by the time you're 45, or you're not going to be able to remember your own house, or your keys, or anything. You hear all the horror stories rather than all the positives that we've grown up with rugby and absolutely love, and it's made us the better person we are now because of the game we love. But people don't get to see that. They get to see the blood, guts, and gory that the media want to push in the opposite direction.
yeah. There's going to be some interesting times, I think, ahead for the game, and we're looking at the back of how do we sell out Twickenham again?
Yeah,
How do we get Army Navy back to the glory days of selling it out?
yeah,
That's where we want to be. That's challenges on.
yeah. Because a lot of people have obviously use it as a piss up and stuff, which is brilliant. But that doesn't make it as accessible for families. There's a lot more. It's more of a family driven piece. Is that where you think you're going to try and drive the market? Do you sort of herd the riffraff to one end or something, and be able to have like a family section, or there must be ways of trying to push that family piece.
Yeah, they brought in a team to look at it
Right.
specifically. So I'm not read into the changes they're
No,
looking at
no.
enough, but yeah, I think there's a potential that has the reunion event of the past gone, or is not so much. Is it going to come back?
Mm.
The old guy. I think there's always an excuse of Army Navy been a great day out, right?
Yeah.
And it's a quite a unique rugby game. You never heard an anthem like it,
No.
uh, and all the bells and whistles go with it. So I think, yeah, there's always going to be a bit of that. But I think if there's an option to carve out a bit of a family-friendly vibe, do a bit of something in that West car park where you've got all the recruitment stands there, kids
Yeah.
coming along, trying to do the Royal Marines climbing wall and shooting a rifle and,
Yeah.
all that fun stuff,
Yeah.
then maybe we can do that as well. And especially with it now being the men's game and the women's game, there's a different crowd that comes with women's rugby. It's a
Yeah.
different audience.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can attract both
I
and
think
they
that's a
can
real
sort of
positive
complement
as
each other.
well. I think the game's obviously got to a point where it's got a bit of a stigma around a certain clientele as well. And obviously, yeah, we love we love rugby, we love drinking, we love the whole thing that it goes together. But I think the women's rugby has been the door opener for a lot of families to sort of bring the system through. You just hope they don't use that as a cash cow now, the RFU, to subsidise the rest of the empty stadiums on the men's games. Because I think the Japan tickets went out for sale for England Japan. They're nowhere near sold out. I think they're like, but I think they've priced them at 60, 70 quid. And you think, like, it's Japan. Like, drop them to 30, 40 quid and max it out. Just fill it out with kids. Or, like, I bet they'll still get to a week or two beforehand and it's not filled, but they won't drop the price. Like, just say to, if you an adult and if you buy an adult's ticket, you get the kid in free. Just find a way of just trying to get kids through the doors and parents. And I don't know. It's obviously being able to go and watch the Navy rugby. That's easy, accessible. It's free. Burnaby Road obviously is always more than welcoming for people just to go in. It's just so cold. And then I think I've been up to the Army game previously as well, which was in Aldershot? Is that where the most of the older? The under 23s.
Oh, the under 23s.
Under
yeah,
23s.
So we kind of rotate now between home and away. So Aldershot for the Army, and then the RAF drag us to Holton or some other club.
Because the Aldershot's not a bad little setup, to be fair. What's Holton's setup? Is it easy accessible for people to get in, or have you got to be in the know? Have you guys trying to push it a little bit more on social media, or is it if you've got a mate that's playing that's how you know it, or is that your
no, they did it. They did it at Lydney, I think, last year, so it was an open access ground. So I think that's the aim. It's to try and make it accessible. The media stuff is always a driver. I looked at. So I'm currently I haven't handed over yet. I'm the secretary for UK Armed Forces Rugby.
Right.
So we took the team on tour to France last year.
Nice.
And some of the viewing things, we appreciate everyone can't come to France, right, and watch the UK Armed Forces team take on Fiji, or the Fijian military team. But we had some unbelievable views of people watching the game through BFBS, on the replay on the YouTube. So actually connecting that audience in a different way is what it's about, and showing people the talent that's on, that is available in the forces. Yeah, we've got some really talented athletes. And we want to give them the best audience to show off their skills to, because I think they deserve it. And then whether that's people bums on seats or watching from home.
No, I think that's brilliant. I think the BFBS stuff and the YouTube access that you guys offer is brilliant, especially for service personnel that can't attend. They obviously still could be connected back to their mates and just be able to support. And the coverage is always really good. Everything I've seen is decent, and then just being able to get down there as well. When you do get the opportunity, the standard of rugby has always been decent as well, and it's always a good crack. And usually cheap beer, which helps. So it's always a positive. You've now sort of taken over the DOR role. How did that come about? Was there just a poster in the naffy one day, and you thought, "Oh, actually, I'll have a go," or were you the last person with your hand up and got stitched up? Was it planned, or was it?
Yeah. So I've been interested in something that, when I finished playing for the seniors a while ago, I was always kind of looking to give back. Something Navy Rugby gave me so much.
Yeah.
Tours, amazing experiences, opportunities that I can, you're never going to get as an amateur rugby player in any other sphere. So I wanted to give that back, make sure people after me had that opportunity, and that was kind of why I wanted to get back involved. Initially, there was nothing available in Navy Rugby. I chose not to do coaching, which I thought was going to be the next step for me. But coaching is more intense than playing.
Yeah.
There's more time, and I needed to focus on my career a bit more.
Yeah.
So I ended up, taking a job with the UK Armed Forces team as the sort of secretary, getting involved in that world.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of a one-man band with them for a while, doing everything: media, sponsorships.
Yeah.
You name it, organising tours, funding, a lot. And I got invited by the Navy Rugby team to cover the media officer. They were going to France to play the French Navy in Vannes. And
nice.
I don't know if I pronounced that right. Someone will pick me up.
It sounds French. That'll do.
Franglais. And I got invited. Said, can you come down, cover the media stuff for this guy who couldn't make it? I was like, yeah, cool. Why not? Trip to France, a few beers.
Lovely.
And I was out there, and I went out for a few Guinness with the current director of rugby, Rob O'Kane, and we were chatting. And I said, is there any openings? I'd be keen to get involved. And he sort of said, oh, well, there might be something, I'll let you know. And he sort of said, I think you should apply for my job. With the skills and experience you built up, I think you'd be a good fit. So, when they advertised, he let me know and I put the application in. And then there was a few of us, I think there was a few candidates went for it. So we went through a sort of 2-stage process.
So the current DOR was leaving though, right? You didn't just sort of get too drunk and get some photos and he had to leave, is he? Like you haven't sort of forced him out of his job role. It was all all
by the book. He's moving on. I had to go and do something else. So it created an opportunity for me, and I was keen to do it. So
Brilliant.
it's kind of the job I wish I've been looking up to for a long time.
Yeah, it's amazing. So as you said, so you had a couple of interview process. What was the thing? Did you have to present what you planned on doing, or was it just all of it? Just they
Yeah, a
wanted
bit of
to
all
know.
that.
Wow.
Sort of preparing a rugby CV. I hadn't really done one of those before,
Yeah.
so that was sort of preparing that side of things. And then
Didn't have to get the old VHS out again and try and put your clips in together, did you?
no, no, exactly. And then then just an interview with a panel, really talking about why I wanted to do it, what my plans were, just sort of doing the right thing,
Yeah.
how I've got around problems in the past, bit about my credibility and background, and I guess they bought into my vision and
Yeah.
what I wanted to achieve. Now it's just got to do it now, right?
That's
Put my
it.
money where my mouth is and actually deliver. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck into it, really.
So when's it officially start? What is it? Have you got a date that the handover is happening, or is it already
It's
done?
done. Yeah.
Done.
Army Navy. When was it? Back in last month. Start of last month.
Yeah.
Me and Rob shook hands after Army Navy, and that was me.
Wow.
I'm straight into it.
So when's
There's
the
a lot of work.
first sort of boots on the pitch for you then? What's the first game that you're over the top of?
It's happening. Sevens.
Oh, okay.
The Navy Sevens teams are off running. They've got the Inter Sevens the 2nd of June.
Oh, okay. Nice.
That's kind of ongoing now
Yeah.
through the summer, and then we're into the under-23 season starts in September.
Yeah.
And then seniors after Christmas. So straight into it.
Nice. Baptism and fire, mate. Just there's no lulling around, is there? So
No, it's all the preparation stuff, right? It's getting, are there going to be any shuffles in the TSG? Who your coach is going to be?
Yeah.
What skills do we need to bring in? The money. How are we going to spend the money? It's it's a limited pot of money. Where are we going to use it? I've got all the players. So we have players going on like professional contracts.
Yeah.
With different clubs. So sorting all those out because they're obviously all fishing ready to start pre-season at different clubs.
Yeah.
So sorting that lot out, and getting ready really. So straight into it, which has been good. But
no,
busy.
that's it. So obviously the plan is obviously for next season's Army Navy on the main door of it. What's do you have like obviously you've got the current squad you're aware of. Do you have scouts that you sort of have sort of looking around the rest of the player pool, or do you get footage sent to you and you sort of process it, or have you got sort of a team allocated to do that work for you so far, or not?
Yeah, most of we've got a bit of a network out there within. So Navy Rugby, the community side, straight from playing for your ship or your unit.
Yeah.
In the Navy Cup, and then it builds up into command level. So play for your corps or the Fleet Air Arm or Pompey Command, Plymouth Command, and then so we've kind of got scouts in all those teams.
Okay.
When it gets to the finals of those games,
Yeah.
because some of the coaches will go and have a look, watch players, or get footage. Plus, I said we've got the scouts at the entry points at Raleigh and Dartmouth, looking out for real talent coming into the Navy and the Marines. And then you're kind of putting all that together and then having a look at people, right? It all comes down to have a look at people, and part of our sort of mantra is really like selecting character over talent. So you make sure they're the right people.
Yeah.
The All Blacks have they do that. They have their own way of doing that.
Said that no dickhead policy. That's their same as the All Blacks, and I think, as you say, getting the right people in can easily pass talent if you've got a team that will stick together. Especially as you guys have obviously got quite a bit to do alongside before they're able to get away from their normal jobs. So they've got quite a high demand level to them. That's sort of it's not a holiday, but it's a step away from the norm, and then have to sort of recycle. If you can't process that must be quite hard. Is that part of the mental stuff that you said, the psychology stuff that you got to deal with?
Yeah, we haven't done much of that, to be fair. It's probably a good idea.
There you go.
I think I'll take that. No, I think to get that time off, a lot of them are then going and doing extra work. Whilst they're away playing rugby, other people are covering for them.
Yeah.
They're not at sea, so they really. It's important for me and for their time being a rugby that they go back to work and really earn that time off.
Yeah.
Well, it's not time off, but time for doing a different thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have to be good, and that comes down to character. The bit, when we get them, my sort of offer to the Navy is like, you give me a rugby player for a period of time, I'll give you back a better sailor and marine. So, like, it's not just about them playing rugby. It's about how do we improve them as a person, them as a sailor. Am I going to make them a better leader? Am I going to make them a better individual?
Yeah.
That's our aspiration, as well as creating good rugby teams. And if we do that with the rugby as the sort of medium, that's kind of what we're trying to achieve, as well as obviously beating the Army and the ref.
Do you get many friendlies against sort of civvy teams? Obviously, with your links, do you get to play like Devonport services and that sort of and the likes and US Pompey?
Yeah. So not US Pompey because they're not quite at the right level.
Depends how easy you want the game.
Yeah. No, but there's a big broad brush. So
yeah.
If I look at the teams played last year, Taunton, Cornish Pirates, Exeter Chiefs, Marine Nationale, lots of different, Cambridge University, Oxford Uni. So yeah, there's a bit of a broad brush.
Yeah.
British Police we played, I can't remember. Yeah, so it's a bit of a mix. Wow. So pretty much most of the games we play are against civilian teams. We try and tailor the season right so that you build up to get the team in the right place just before they go against the in the services.
So how do those games come about? Is that through connections, through players playing for those sort of clubs and stuff, or just a case of there's like a WhatsApp group of everyone saying, actually, do you want a friendly at the weekend?
Yeah. No, some of them are historic. So
like
Oxford and Cambridge, we've played them for a long time.
Yeah.
So Plymouth Albion, we've got a really strong links with that club.
Yeah.
Same as Pirates. Through getting on really well. But we've also had a lot of players go through this club. So yeah, we've got strong links there. Exeter has been something we've been building for the last few years.
Okay.
We had a really good game against them last year at Sandy Park. They sold out the whole main stand.
Really?
Like full. Wow. It was a big event. I think they're going even bigger next year because they're going to do it a weekend on a weekend where they haven't got a game.
Yeah.
So that'll be a really cool one.
Is that sort of their development squad, or is it a few sort of proper first teamers in there? Or?
Yeah, it's Beard and Hold. Normally it's like their development squad.
Yeah.
Occasionally they chuck in like a senior player who's returning from injury.
Back from injury. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's always been the case. I mean, I remember playing against Bath Academy as an under-23, and Chef Walker was playing, having just played GB Rugby League, and I'm like, what is going on here? Getting absolutely smashed. Brilliant. So, sometimes they play ball and they match us. Yeah, they understand the standard and they play the right game. Sometimes they just use it as use us as a bit of a test, budget tackle pads, really. So.
Yeah. No, so obviously, I've also had James Shanahan on, who's over at Cambridge as well. He's the head coach, and he's saying how he's got to literally get the squad sorted within like an 8-week window, and he's like literally got it all tailored up, and it was just amazing. He said, as he said though, it's a similar sort of set up to you guys, but probably not as much of a turnover. He said, every sort of 2 years or every year, he might lose 50% of his players, and they got to restart. He's literally got blokes just walking down halls trying to sign players up. He said, we might not know who we've got until that sort of. He said we've got no input into the entry of obviously Cambridge, because rugby is just an add-on. Like the education is He said one season I had 3 9s, didn't have a 10. He said I had to teach a 9 to become a 10 in like 8 weeks to play again. He said it's a whole different challenge. Like, at least you guys have probably got a bit of a conveyor belt, but does it still do you sometimes find yourself sparse in certain positions?
Always, yeah,
really?
Always, yeah. It's kind of, you get what you got.
Yeah.
Sometimes the key players you need aren't there. They're away.
So how do you
or
do that
injured.
alongside? Do you sort of have to sort of send lads off and get them out and say, actually, you've got to go and play this role, or you've got to play this position for us because we need to really strengthen this bit? Or do the lads sort of say, that's my position, I've always played it, or are they more adaptable because they get opportunity to play, or potentially the opportunity to play at Twickers?
Yeah, I mean, we've had it a few times. We've had really good hookers. We had a number of good hookers. I mean, this year, we got Sam Matvezi, who's playing hooker week in, week out.
Yeah.
You got Reece Williams, who was playing in Championship, Cornish Pirates hooker.
Yeah.
And then you've got a nice young hooker coming through. And actually, using, like Sam could play back row, and Pridge has done that before as well. And I think ultimately some of them are learning new positions, playing out the comfort zone a little bit, but that's just the way it is. You're kind of building a team, right? And you don't always have everything you want.
No.
So you work with what you got and do it. I mean, we get a bit longer, so 8 weeks is a hell of a challenge.
Yeah.
Whereas we might know those issues a bit more in advance, and try and work around them. But then, like I say, injury strikes and you find you're on the back foot and you got to make changes again. So luckily I don't have to deal with that as the director of rugby. That's
you just point
head coach's
point them in that direction. That's the way we want to go. You make it happen. Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mate. And it's great to see another side of rugby that a lot of people only see, as you say, at the Army Navy on the telly. So I can only wish you the best of luck for the journey you've got. I'm sure you'll smash it and be able to flip some of those Tonkins that you received on the pitch back against the Army, mate. So thank you so much for your time, mate. I really, really appreciate it.
Cheers, Carl. Thanks. It's been a pleasure to come on.
Top man. Cheers.
Thanks. Cheers, mate.
Well, that brings this pod to an end. If you made it this far, I just want to take a moment to thank you for listening right through and express my gratitude for following yet another episode of Rugby Through the Leagues podcast. In today's episode, we spoke with Tom Blackburn, new director of rugby at Rugby Navy. What a top bloke. Wealth of knowledge, really big plans to push the Navy scene forward as well and close that gap, especially in the women's game, and hopefully return some of the pumpings that he obviously received on the pitch from the Army back in the day. But he's obviously toured around the country, toured around the world, played some really good rugby level as well. Obviously played down at Havant, made himself down in Cornwall now as well. So really nice bloke. Great conversation as well. So great to have him on. Hopefully we can open the door further to some other services, rugby as well, which would be really good. Next episode, we've got Ollie Curry on. Ollie is an absolute character, played for London Irish, very outspoken, but when he speaks, it's well worth listening to because the bloke has got a lot of knowledge, played in the game, gone through the hardships, explains how sometimes you can't pop your head above the parapet in the game as well, which is really interesting to hear in that interview as well. So recently finished up with Chinner, obviously was part of their promotion team as well, which was really good to talk to him about. That episode could have easily gone on for 2 or 3 hours. There's definitely another backup episode lined up with Ollie at some point because I think we only barely touched the iceberg with that. So he's an absolute really nice bloke as well. So it'd be great to hopefully get another episode out of that as well. But let's get the first one out of the way next week. And what a top bloke. I think you guys will love it. Really outspoken. Tells it how it is. Obviously, we love that, especially in the game. So once again, I just want to say a huge thank you to you all for joining us. Thank you and goodbye.